Hello, everybody. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I have an update for you on storms in the high plains, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, slipping into Nebraska and Kansas later. On details on what's going on right now. And we have and are in the middle of our partial lunar eclipse in the central time zone. It's working through. It will peak here as we cross into the next hour or so. Do you have photos? You can share those with me. Much of the nation, though, dealing with severe weather. Let's get to the details on that. Here's a look at an active severe thunderstorm watch. The yellow box here is basically for parts of southeastern Wyoming, northeast Colorado, the North Platte, Nebraska area, so the panhandle of Nebraska in through Scotts Bluff and south into parts of western Kansas as well. This watch is in effect as you take a look out here until 10 o'clock tonight, Central Time. For those of you in Mountain Time, that's 9 o'clock. 80-mile-per-hour gusts, the main risk, and we could see some hail upwards of 1 inch. A lot of wind reports from these storms out here. We do have some storms elsewhere ongoing as we head into the evening hours. Now, here's a look at some radar information. Let's start with a look at what's going on nationally so we can see a whole host of severe thunderstorm warning boxes here in yellow. The blue ones that you see there are storms that are flirting with severe levels, but they're not quite there. All of the little blue icons that you see here are reports of severe weather across parts of the area, and these extend all the way up into Montana, where we have a couple of active severe thunderstorm warnings as well. Good old-fashioned garden variety showers and thunderstorms closer to the center of low pressure in the high country of Colorado. Elsewhere across the nation, we have wild weather continuing, very wild and wet weather with flash flooding, with tropical weather out there in the Carolinas now finally lifting into portions of the Virginias as we head into the evening hours. So let's go into the latest. We'll go south to north with these storms as we are trucking our way through the evening. If you do have a question and you're watching Hutch's Weather, I'm going to say hello in the chat, and please let me know where you are watching from. And if you have a question about your weather, I would love to hear it right here. Where are you watching from? So there we go. I'd love to start the conversation there. Let me know where you're watching from. Let's go ahead and start out in southern parts of Colorado and look at this all the way down into the Dumas area as well. So as we zoom in, a severe thunderstorm that has brought some windy conditions with an emergency manager out there reporting multiple tree branches blown down and wind gusts causing that wind damage in the Stafford area, moving toward Guyman as we head into areas not far from, well, let's see, the panhandle of Oklahoma. So that storm there working its way right along the panhandle. And again, the National Weather Service having issued a severe thunderstorm warning for that particular cell that's moving in the general direction of Guyman at a clip of only 30 miles per hour. So locally heavy rain likely. The main threat is going to be the gusty wind. Notice the hail below severe criteria around or less than 3/4 of an inch. Now, new warning for Garden City up there in Kansas as we take a look at this cell. This one's moving more northeasterly, 40 miles per hour. And it's pretty solid line. This is a big area for a warning here, and there are multiple individual thunderstorm cells within that line of cells. These storms have a history of producing winds. This one, a measured value of 60-mile-per-hour winds from a mesonet station. That was located 9 miles south-southwest of Kendall as we look at those storms trucking off to the east, heading towards Lincoln and Garden City eventually. So those storms extend all the way up into the I-70 corridor, just exiting parts of Colorado and heading into parts of Kansas near Goodland and out towards the area of Colby. These storms are also severe. Notice we have another very elongated severe thunderstorm warning that includes numerous counties as well as communities for this line of strong storms with a history with all of these blue dots of gusty winds. Now, what I'm looking for here is a little bit of a backward C shape, and I'm seeing one right here south of the Winona area. That could be an area where we have some enhancement of the winds. When the storm collapses with the rain and the hail, that mass hits the ground and causes a gust front, and it changes the shape of the storm, and it pooches out, called a bow or a bow echo. So that area there may have some strong winds heading into the Russell Springs area, and this was a measurement from the Goodland office passed along of 50-mile-per-hour gusts. That happened 9 miles off into the west-southwest of Winona. So some storms working their way into Kansas on the I-70 corridor, right on the interstate. By the way, these winds will likely be coming west to east. So if you are a semi-tractor trailer and you're worried about winds, keep the nose of the truck pointed into the winds or whatever. As if you are parking, don't park with the empty load in particular, perpendicular or parking north and south. That's going to leave you exposed to those high winds. So storms up to the north here. As we take a look, we have them moving out of parts of northeast Colorado now, almost exclusively pushing into the panhandle of Nebraska and the Sandhills out there near Ogallala. We're seeing a strong storm working its way in. This is a severe warned storm. It's not a hail threat at about 3/4 of an inch. That's no picnic, especially if it's wind driven. That certainly could cause some damage. And the winds are expected to be upwards of 60 miles per hour as that storm moves into Ogallala here within about the next 15 minutes. All right, here's a look at some storms moving into that Gordon area. This is going to be looking into Wyoming, the northern reaches of Nebraska and southern parts of South Dakota, south of Rapid City. Big areas of severe thunderstorm warnings out there also included, thanks to, well, basically we got this huge long line of storms. So this one moving northeast, 52 miles per hour. So if the storm is moving along at 52 miles per hour, if it even thinks of burping out some wind, it's probably going to be severe. Severe, by definition, is 58 mile per hour gusts. So in the Gordon area, prepare for gusty winds moving in from the west and southwest are these storms pushing towards you. They will be there momentarily. You're probably seeing the skies light up. Oh, we got a new report in from this Pine Ridge area, just 3 miles to the east-southeast. This one, a 60 mile per hour gust measured from that particular storm. Speaking of Ogallala, a whole bunch of polygons here that are surrounding these storms because we have different storms that have prompted warnings at different times. These ones pushing in from the south are moving towards Ogallala from the south. This one's moving more in an easterly direction right here. So it's more east-northeasterly, and we'll be heading in the general direction of Kyle as we head through the next 45 minutes or so. So it'll be a while before it gets there. But there are a number of wind reports from these stations. Here's a meso station or a mesonet station that has recorded a 56 mile per hour gust, and just across the road here, another mesonet station reporting a gust of 59 miles per hour, which is by definition severe. So the good news is I'm not seeing a ton of measurements out here from the 80 mile per hour category, and that's a good thing, but it's something to keep in mind that there is that potential. A lot of very heavy rain in the Black Hills, Custer to Hot Springs, points west toward the Wyoming border there, just exiting Lusk and heading up toward Newcastle. And the Spearfish area, all of this is mainly to the south of you as a new scan is loading up right now. Storms up in Montana have been severe, and let's cover those real quickly as we take a look at one that looks like it's been a hail producer out here not far, moving into Ekalaka. Ekalaka's fun. A little bit of a history about old Ekalaka is that they changed their name back in the 49ers days to Joe, Montana. Officially, they changed the name of their town to Joe, Montana. Okay, here's a look at a 55 mile per hour gust that was reported out there, not far from, looks like, let me see where that report was. 55 mile per hour gusts northwest of Castle Rock. 31 miles northwest of Castle Rock in some ways. And just south of Camp Cook here in the Harding area, we did measure a 50 mile per hour wind. We do have some stout storms still in and around Camp Cook. These are moving northward towards Ekalaka right now, so you can get ready for some stout thunderstorm activity. And from your National Weather Service in southeast Montana, let's get a look at what the Weather Service is saying. Expect 55 mile per hour gusts in isolated places from this storm. It's moving north at 44. In other words, it's going to be in Ekalaka shortly. It is not severe. Those winds are not severe winds, but they are pretty strong indeed. So Glendive, you've had some hard-hitting storms pass through with wind gusts there of 61 miles per hour north of town. Those storms form near you and push north fairly quickly. Good for you, but not so good for Richie, where the storms did move right over the top of them. Now up towards Brockton, Poplar, Wolf Point, it's been a smorgasbord of thunderstorm activity swirling around this area here, staying out of Glasgow for now. Look at the motion of these storms, generally moving off to the north, but they're starting to bend back and head a little bit out toward the west. So let's take a look at the warnings we have just north of Wolf Point heading into Scobie is a line of very windy storms. Here's that backward C shape, so that would indicate those gusty winds. The Weather Service says wind the main threat, but there are some areas in the storm that could see 1-inch diameter hail. It's moving northwest, and it's moving at 20 miles per hour. Now, where we see the blues here, that's where the hail core is. So moving into Scobie, Scobie. I'm more concerned about the wind for you, and that hail threat looks to be something that is really either building or happening right now in rural areas just south of Highway. Well, it looks like north of Highway 2, just north of Wolf Point, Montana there. So on the roadway between Wolf Point and the Glasgow area, we have this line of storms that will be making its way generally in that direction. So keep that in mind. So that's what's going on there. Let me take a look at the local single site radar out there in northeast Montana. So we'll go ahead and turn on the Glasgow radar here. And what we're going to do is look for some spin. The Storm Prediction Center had this area pegged at a 2% risk of tornadoes, and I have not seen any reports, but I'm telling you it's pretty sparsely populated up here in northeast Montana. So we do have stout thunderstorms, Plentywood, Freud making their way to Scobie right now, and here is some blues on the radar. That is a hail core out there, and that is just off to the south and to the west of Scobie. I can measure that for you here. Let me go ahead and pull up my line measurement tool here. So as the crow flies from downtown metropolitan Scobie, Montana to the hail core, 22 miles south and west of Scobie is where that hail core is. There's another hail core that's showing up down here south of Scobie, just along Highway 13. Let's see if I can measure that. And that's about 25 miles away also. These storms moving into you, the hail cores are here and here south of Scobie, and they're kind of going to skirt along the outside of town for you in the Scobie area. So that's what's going on in Scobie, Montana and northeast Montana. Now we'll take a look at the spin in these storms and see if there's anything that Hutch is seeing here that I'm concerned about as we take a look at the velocity in the storm. Now this is called storm relative velocity, if it loads up for me nicely here. Yes, I see some fairly strong spin starting to stick out to me. It's out a ways from the radar, so we have to keep that in mind. But right here on the end of the scan, we see reds that are bright next to some greens that are fairly bright. So there's some rotation on that storm right on the corner of the warning box out there. And again, if I switch back to the regular radar display here just to see what it looks like, because yeah, right in that area, we've got a hail core in there. So there could certainly be some rotation in and associated with the updraft that's producing that hail core. I don't see your typical hook echo with this particular storm right here. Let me turn my my line measurer off here, but I could use that line measure as a matter of fact and see if I can find out where this storm is located. Just north of Brockton, Montana, if you've ever been there. Hutch has. I can tell you it's about 20 miles to the north and northwest of Brockton, Montana. And there is a little bit of spin in that particular cell out there, mainly over farmland up there in northeast Montana. So south of Flaxville, but north of Brockton by about 20 miles each way. So that's a look at where that storm is. There is a little bit of spin associated with that one. Didn't see many other details of spin, but let's track the hail in all these with Hutch's Hail Tracker. Hail tracking technology brought to you only right here. Okay, let's take a look at this as we are peeking in. Let me see. It's not highlighting anything too auspicious right now. Let me just try that one more time. Here's the chances of severe hail. Let's see if those numbers pop up. It's taking a bit of time. I might need to take it out of the line measurement tool and close that and go back here. Okay, look at this. We got a tornado icon just right here where we were showing you that spin that just popped up. Let me see if I can go ahead and point that out to you here. Let's see what this says. Funnel cloud was sighted. This happened a while ago. 7:20 Central Time is what it says of the report. So that would have been about an hour ago. So we were tracking some storms up in that area earlier, if you joined me on the live broadcast. But there was a funnel cloud reported in those storms north of the Brockton area. And they continue to swirl around there, and they do continue to show at least a chance of some spin within those storms at this particular time. I'm going to check in on Buffalo, South Dakota. For some reason, my hail tracker, there's the shear tracker, and the shear tracker kind of highlights these areas. And right where I was pointing, I wish I could turn that line measurement tool off. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, here we go. And let's turn you off. Okay, so I think that's off now. Now, as we take a look at that, there is the spin where the reds and blues are right next to each other, right on that corner of the warned area. So it's possible we could have some spin up there. And there's quite a bit of spin showing up right here as well in these cluster of storms that are spinning around in parts of northeast Montana. Now let's see if we can get the hail tracking to work. I'm not seeing it. And I'm not sure. Maybe that's a product that I'm not getting from that particular radar site. So Let's take a look at another way to look at hail, and I'll look at some dual polarization data here. And what I'm looking at here is the raindrops inside the clouds, and I'm kind of diagnosing if those raindrops to the horizontal pulse and the vertical pulse from the radar have similar reflectivities back to the radar site. So seeing not a lot of interesting stuff until I look at these long lines here that are emanating from this. So there is probably a nice hail core sitting right here where we see these greens showing up on the radar. So that's one area of some significant hail. That looks to be south of Scobie by about 23 miles, and that fits some of the other stuff that we were looking at there. So that's the hail core on that storm. Everything happening and falling with this particular cluster of storms lately north of the Highway 2 corridor there in northeast Montana. Okay, I'm going to go to Buffalo, South Dakota. Let's turn on the radar here. Let's use the radar from Rapid City and see what we can see out here in Buffalo, South Dakota. So northeast South Dakota reports there of 50-mile-per-hour winds, Camp Crook. And let me see, I'm waiting for the scan to come in. And now let's go to the regular radar data. Here we go. Okay, so now what we're looking at is the storm that's exiting the warned area. The warned area it lasts until 8:45. It is now 8:38, and that storm is exiting the warned area. Still a hail core on the north side of it as it moves up in the general direction of you folks in right along the state border with Montana there. So that's a look at what we have going on there, and a huge area warning down in parts of the basically the Badlands of South Dakota now is where things are starting to move. So if you're in Wall, South Dakota, big old line of thunderstorms heading your way. Porcupine and Kyle seeing a long and stout storm. It's a big warned area here from Kyle all the way out here into the Wanblee area out there in parts of western South Dakota for this storm cluster here moving off to the north and east. That's moving northeast at 52 miles per hour, moving fast. 60-mile-per-hour observed winds with that storm have happened. So in isolated places along the leading edge of that storm, I'm expecting some very strong wind gusts. So these storms are likely to stay out in the west tonight. We did have one funnel cloud sighting in the area where the Storm Prediction Center said there may be an isolated tornado or funnel cloud, and that's what we got going on up there. Elsewhere, gusty winds that could approach 70 miles per hour or more are rolling out of Colorado now and into the western plains of Kansas, Nebraska. These storms will eventually begin weakening as we get beyond the midnight hour. And now taking a look in and around the area of, well, it looks like Fargo here, looking pretty quiet right now, but we do have clear skies. For you folks in Fargo, for you folks in Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, central Minnesota, all the way out to Jamestown and Bismarck, well, if you don't have clouds, then I want to see pictures. And pictures can be uploaded at Hutch's Weather.com. Scroll down to the bottom, and here's some photos that have been uploaded. And yes, I did get a moonshot out there from someone already. So let me take you to that and show you photos being shared across the area on HutchesWeather.com. Kind of a cool way to share what you are seeing right now. And we have indeed had some wonderful and awesome weather across the area heading into the evening hours. Last night, look at what Amy captured in Harwood, North Dakota. My, oh my, that is a look at what we would call the northern lights. So beautiful northern lights that were kind of intermingling with the cumulus clouds from thunderstorms that produced flash flooding across parts of the Dakotas, particularly the northern part of the Dakotas and northern parts of Minnesota as we went through the last 24 hours. So those pictures taken in Harwood, North Dakota. Now let's see if I can take a look at some more rain gauges out there. Let's see more northern lights that happened last night in and around Bemidji, Minnesota. Whoops, I double-clicked it. My apologies. Here it is. Bemidji, seeing northern lights as we went through the nighttime frame there. I'm going to go back and show you that if you do head over to Hutch's Weather and HutchesWeather.com, let me see if I can pull that up for you right here. You're going to find all kinds of information on there. And I just need to go away from this scene right here real quickly and come on back to it so that I can show you a new photo of the moon. This one just uploaded by Julia. So Julia, I'm loving your pictures. Thank you so very much to all of you who have gotten me some moon shots up there. Moon shots provided by those of us in the northern plains here that are lacking the cloud cover right now. I've got a few shots from Julia. Wayne sharing a shot of the moon. And what? That's the aurora, KP7. My mistake, Wayne captured. Oh my gosh, that's a brilliant, brilliant aurora there. Here we go. You ready to see these? Let's take a look at those in the middle of some severe weather taking place in the high plains. Here we go. Back to the cameras and back to your photos at hutchesweather.com. So this is happening now with regards to these moonshots that you're seeing. Julia captured this in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. That orange hue is not caused by fire, but the moon, at least partially, is rolling into the shadow of the earth. So the sun is shining on one side of the earth, casting a shadow. And there it is. That is the full supermoon, the harvest moon tonight. And it is at least partially being doused in the shadow of the earth right now. Here's another view from Detroit Lakes with a little more scenery Julie captured here. Beautiful shot of the trees. And look at the deers out there enjoying that view of that awesome moon, super moon on this September day. Now, as we take a look at the northern lights, this one was just loaded up from Dead Lake, Minnesota. Check these northern lights out here. Oh my goodness. Wayne, thank you so very much for sharing yours from Dead Lake, Minnesota. The information here says it was at 10:28 p.m. On the 16th. That was last night. And you can see a few clouds off in the distance, but glorious pillars of light shooting up there in the ionosphere over Otter Tail County, Minnesota. Gosh, thanks for sharing that absolutely stunning photo out there. Here's the moon from Thief River Falls, shared by my friend Justin. Thank you so very much for watching, Justin. This one mingling with some some clouds out there as northwest Minnesota getting a chance to see just a little bit of the sky tonight. So thanks so very much to all of you who have uploaded your photos to hutchesweather.com. Severe weather in northeast Montana has multiple warnings and a funnel cloud that was sighted north of Brockton, Montana. Hutch knows exactly where that is. My grandparents lived in Brockton, Montana. So as a kid, I spent some time out there with cousins and relatives and friends in the Brockton to Wolf Point area in northeast Montana, western parts of South Dakota, western parts of the great state of Nebraska and Kansas, seeing strong and severe thunderstorm warnings. The main threat in those areas, gusty straight line winds from multiple severe storms moving into the Badlands just off to the east of the Black Hills and moving into the Sand Hills of parts of Nebraska near Scottsbluff and western parts of Kansas right now. We do have very wet weather taking place down in the southeastern United States, but the good news is, as I load up a Virginia Beach radar here, let me see if I can do that. There it is. So in and around the Virginia Beach area, we do have some very heavy rain just offshore right now, making its way onshore. These showers and thunderstorms not producing any warnings right now, but very wet weather on top of very wet weather that has been persistent there in your area. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I appreciate your likes, comments, and questions that you've provided for me during this broadcast, and I look forward to many more. For now, have a wonderful evening. Stay tuned to me here at Hutch's Weather and hutchesweather.com, where you can interact by uploading your observations of weather right there on the website.